Well, there has been a lot of hangama over one ad which came in from Fabindia talking about the new collection, which was called Jashne Riaz. And they were essentially talking about the Diwali collection. And we saw the hue and cry over it. It was started actually by the BJP Yuva Manch president, um, Tejaswi Surya. It got a lot of traction on the social media. Boycott Fab India, which forced the Fab India to actually withdraw this ad. But this is not the first time. There have been several ads, whether there were Tanishq ads, whether I remember a Fortune Oil, mustard oil ad during the Durga Pujas, which showed the model actually frying fish during the Navratra. So there was a lot of outrage over this. So we are going to actually discuss this in a larger context. Should advertisers be actually sensitive to the cultural as well as the religious feelings of the people of India? Dilip Cherian, he doesn't even need an introduction. He's now joining me. Thank you so much, Dilip. I'm going to throw this question to you because you are in this trade. I mean, the Fab India ad, for example, many feel that it was highly avoidable. I mean, why not just simply call it a Diwali collection?
I would like to respond in three different, shall I say, buckets. The first is that creative license and creative freedom. Everybody does a Diwali collection. If you want yours to stand out in terms of nomenclature, in terms of the phonetics of it, it's a good idea to try and name it something else. It's a bit like in Calcutta, very often advertisers would use Bada Din as opposed to Christmas Day. Okay. So it wasn't frowned upon. It wasn't, India is multicultural and multilingual. And I think the lingual part of it is what we are beginning to get confused about. So I think creative freedom and what I call the creative commons ought to be expanded, not to be narrowed down. The second thing is it needs to be examined from the point of view, was there an intent to hurt? And I think that there is no intent whatsoever. Fabindia is as Atmanirbhar a brand as could be, given that its speciality is focusing on clothing that's designed by Indians for Indians. And the third thing we need to keep in mind is that did it actually hurt anybody, or is this a very niche audience we're talking about? Given the price range at which Fab India operates, it is not some kind of a tambaku or a chappal brand. It is operating at a level of understanding, knowledge, and where people are globally aware. So that is the kind of brand positioning it has. And I think that in that audience, it is unlikely that something as frivolous, I would say, as this matters at all.
Dilip, your point of freedom or creative freedom is point taken. But if this was really the case, if it doesn't really matter to the niche kind of clientele, then why did Fab India even have to bother to remove it? They shouldn't have bothered if they felt that they were doing the right thing.
Whether it is a Tejaswi Surya or whether it is a whole bunch of other paid trolls, the fact is that corporate India is the soft underbelly that people like to attack, trollers like to go for. Alongside corporate India are sometimes Bollywood actors and sometimes cricketers. Now, all these people have what I would call super thin skin, and they would rather panic and retreat rather than insist on staying the course. So I have a feeling that what happens is that people who are looking for making an issue out of such a thing, showing that there is this resurgent new belief in ourselves, in our importance, they would like to go for the soft underbelly, because then you can scream victory even louder and get more eyeballs. But the point I'm making is that if India is indeed wanting to emerge as a strong nationalist voice, if Hindus are going to reassert themselves, do they need to exhibit such a thin skin? Or is it actually anxiety triggered by the fact that the world isn't paying us enough attention?
No, I mean, okay, since you are in that business yourself, when a client comes to you, are you now, and many people in your peer group also, are they now very apprehensive? They don't want to take any chances. Has that fear factor also begun to come in? You know,
I would say
Tanishq
so.
also was a big brand. Yeah. Yes, go ahead.
Sadly, I would say so. The fact is that today, whether um, we in the PR industry or in the image creation industry or those in the pure advertising play have to think twice, thrice about taking liberties at what I call the edge of creativity. And sometimes, as a result, what we are actually going to do is choke off the kind of, what I would call artistic license. And this applies even to painters, singers, ghazal producers, whatever it is. Everybody is now doing what I would call extremely damaging self-censorship. And that is, I
Hmm.
think, the core of what we are talking today.
Have things changed over the years? If that's what you're getting a sense from?
My sense is yes, unfortunately, people are doing more and more of it. And what will happen is, as a result of this, you might have a kind of um, creative landscape which is barren and boring.
Mhm. For example, a Tanishq ad, which the pictures of which we were just actually putting up a short while back, and we're going to play it up. The allegation against the Tanishq ad, which actually showed a Muslim family doing a Godharai function for a Hindu daughter-in-law, it was encouraging love jihad. Do you think our cultural ethos or advertising, literature is actually now getting caught in a political narrative? And also, interestingly, possibly caught in this trap of, oh, elections around the corner, and therefore we have to cater up out to our vote bank.
In a situation where elections are constantly around the corner, because you know how many elections there are in 22, and then there's a suitable number in 23 and an unsuitable number in 24. So I think that what we are doing is kind of throwing a what I would call a weighted blanket on an entire cultural ethos of inclusivity, of not having any straight lines, not having any lines which you can't cross, but constantly looking to be prickly. And the more
Hmm.
prickly we don't get precious and we don't get important. What actually happens is that we become, in some senses, more vulnerable.
Okay, I was wanting to get the BJP spokesperson Shaina NC to join us in, but I guess there's some issue over here. This is some question I really would have ideally loved to ask her, but I'll have to let you go, Dilip, because I know you've taken time out for this discussion. If what you say, that sense of apprehension among the advertisers is creeping in, I think that's really unfortunate, because some of these ads are really lovely, and some of the outrage the Bengali I can say is something which I didn't understand. For example, the Fortune oil, mustard oil ad during Durga Pujo showed a woman frying fish. Now in Bengal, fish is considered to something which is so
You
holy.
have
It's
to fry it
associated
for
with
the
all of
gods.
it. You have to find the integral part of the bhog which we offer to Ma Durga. But there you have it. Somewhere down the line, the question arises is that people don't understand what our culture is all about. But thank you very much, Dilip, as always, for your reactions. Well, we are going to wait
Always a
for a
pleasure to be
BJP.
on News 18. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dilip.
Thank you.